Hi, and welcome to this very special episode of our Wisdom Wednesday. Today is Sacred Empowerments. So let me get myself lined up here. Oh, gosh. Well, why did I choose Sacred Empowerments today? I told you last week that I changed what I had scheduled this week, and it's because of what's happening in the world. It's because I think we all need a reset. Listen, sometimes when it feels like everything is going wrong, it might help us to remember that that's often when change happens. So if you are feeling any fear about what's happening in the world or anger about what's happening, any judgment against others, you need a reset. When it comes to creating heaven on earth, we can't let fear or anger or judgment or even the feeling of being overwhelmed to be the deciding factor on how you live your day. Those of you that are on the front lines of sacred change, of using your sacred empowerments, must learn to take care of yourselves so that you can stay physically and emotionally healthy to continue the call for change. Change to help create a more loving and less fearful world. Maybe you are one who is ready to assist in that transformation, to assist in creating heaven on earth. We always have, every moment of every day, have the ability to create kindness and compassion and a better world for everyone using our sacred empowerments. We all possess them. Now, it may or may not seem easy, but it is, of course, worth it. So let's begin today's episode number 75, as I ask you to remember to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being. That infinite wisdom that dreamed us all into being by choice. And yes, too many have forgotten this. Hi, I'm Carrie Fox, and my main mission in life is to be a constant reminder of our infinite wisdom connection and to share my philosophy that we each, every single one of us, came down to this earth in this incarnation to have a grand adventure. But we get sidetracked and we get lost and we go down the rabbit's hole. So let's help each other to get back on track. Let someone help you to help yourself get your mojo back. Now, today's focus on our sacred empowerments is something that we too often forget: how powerful we are. We forget the abilities that we each have to co-create a world of love and forgiveness and making a new choice each day, every second of every day. And it all starts with understanding your personal power and your real power. So, too often we fall into the belief that we are only human with limitations and restrictions. And we hear terms like ancestral wounds. And we accept the fact that because something that happened to our ancestors is happening to us, it's why we feel wounded through cellular memory. Well, listen, what if that's not true? What if that is not cast in stone? And we realize or recognize that we had something traumatic that happened to us, and that's often done in our childhood, and that has broken us, caused us to be burdened with that for the rest of our lives, that is who we are. But what if that's not true? What if that is not cast in stone? Now, this image with a small part of you, or this image is you with a small part of you that believes in God, that believes in a greater source, the universe, higher self. I don't care about what the words you make, but it is that infinite power. Or maybe you've heard the adage that you are actually a spiritual being having a human experience, and you accept that, or maybe you ponder that or ponder the validity of it. But now this image on the right puts that into a much more accurate representation of your relationship with reality. This image is meant to inspire you and to encourage you to embrace your sacred empowerments, that you have the power to create, the power to choose, the power to embrace who you really are as a child of God. Together, these two images show you that yes, you are a 3D human being on planet Earth. But yes, much, much more. You are a part of the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being. You are a co-creator of what happens here on Earth. And that together, your humanness and your sacred empowerment gives you co-creation partnership. You are so much more powerful than what you have thought, than what you have been living in your daily life. So let's step further into this theory here. Sometimes it helps people to look at their life from their soul's perspective, recognizing that the divine influence, the divine wisdom is energizing multiple split aparts who are living and leading and creating every moment of every day. That there are millions, actually billions of split apart energies from our base cosmic consciousness that are co-inhabiting the earth with you, who pretend that this is what they want, but they have forgotten about what they're co-creating, like you have forgotten what you could be co-creating. You could be helping to create heaven on earth. Now, today is all about looking at how we can help them to reset, us to reset, how we can all reset and get back into harmony with our sacred empowerments. So let's start with living in the present moment. Releasing anger or grief about anything that happened yesterday or last week or last year. Releasing any anxiety about what could be happening tomorrow. And just to be perfectly aligned, perfectly designed for right now, to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being. Remember, you can't change anything about something that happened yesterday. If you said something mean to somebody yesterday, you can't change that. You can't undo that. You can do something differently about it today. You can act in the now. This is your most powerful place of being a human being, is in the now. You can apologize to the person that you said that mean thing to yesterday. That's the power that you have of the now. And it is only in your present moment. You can use anything that will help you be more in the present moment. You can use movement, breath, visualization, sound, music, dance, whatever you want to do to drop into the deepness of knowing your now. Being creative is a wonderful way to do that. It's a gateway to who you really are. Not focusing on what life is happening outside yourself, but on who you are in this moment right now. And a great prescription is to be now, to create now, maybe to dance. That puts you 100% in the present moment in a loving and happy way. To be in the moment of now, to stay in that moment. Many people find it helpful to focus their attention on their heartbeat. For you cannot find your soul with your mind. You must use your heart. And many find that they can take their hearts for a walk in the woods with them and listen to the magic whispers of the old trees. If you have never experienced this, I don't know what has happened in your life up to now. I don't know if I'm talking to a younger person or an older person, but if you haven't listened to the wisdom of the trees ever or lately, do that. Find yourself in your heart and follow its beat in the present moment. And if you can, spend time out in nature, away from the sounds of cars and buses and airplanes. Nature is a beautiful connection. Find yourself in your heart and follow it to the present moment. Let go of everything before this moment and everything that could happen after this moment. The present moment, is where you are the most powerful. And you want to be there as much as you can and as often as you can. An example of what I'm talking about is one of the tools that's used in shamanic journeying. The drum is beat to the heartbeat of the rhythm of the planet Earth, of Mother Earth. And it helps to cause the journeyers, or it helps to, cause was the wrong word, lead the journeyers into the depths of the awareness of Mother Earth, of all of creation. Another thing that people use for tools that have to do with Mother Earth is crystals. The gems that come from the depth of Mother Earth, and each crystals carry different frequencies. They're vibrations to assist your alignment, to help 3D humans beings to get more in alignment with creation, again, which only happens in the moment of now. So if you've not worked with crystals before, I want to just give a couple really basic things that I've learned over the years. And that is mainly one crystal at a time. If you have a crystal, I'm going to tell you a couple things in a few minutes that you want to work with it for days or weeks or months or years, whatever, but get in tune with what that crystal has for you. Now, I want to tell you a little story that I have about crystals and interactions of using crystals. Back in the 1970s, way back then, I was surrounded by fellow seekers, those of us who were inquiring about everything, about how to understand this life, planet Earth thing. And one of my friends owned a metaphysical bookstore, and he had gotten a new supply of crystals, and it had invited our community, our group, to come into the store the night before he was going to put the crystals on display and up for sale, to see if there were crystals that any of us might want to buy. Well, we went there the night before. There's about a dozen of us, and we spent an hour or so picking up and touching crystals, and people are going ooh and on, saying they were seeing colors and they were feeling vibrations, and it was just this amazing coalition of events that were happening in this room, except for me. Nothing happened for me. I never touched one crystal that night that I felt any alignment with, that I felt any energy from, that I saw any flowers with. It was very disappointing. And over the next few years, I continued my search, and I kept touching every crystal, every rock that I could. And I kept feeling a little sad that I did not have what other people have, that I was unable to attain a connection with a crystal. But I just kept telling myself, it was all perfect. It was exactly the way that it was supposed to be. There just was no crystal that I needed, or I just needed to keep trusting the guidance and the learning and the development that I was doing, just to keep praying, keep meditating, stay on my path. And then one day in the late 1980s, so 10 years later, I attended the Washington State Fair with my partner and another couple. And my friend and I saw this huge tent, is how I remember it, but it might have been a building, filled with crystals and metaphysical items. So we went in as the guys went to do something else with the farm tractors or the cars, whatever. This building, this erection, had rows and rows and shelves of displays of crystals and stones of every size and every color of the rainbow. It was amazing. And I was anyway, picking up samples, big and small. And I have to admit, I was secretly hoping I would actually sense something or feel something. But I probably had touched over 50, maybe 100 things: earrings, necklaces, geodes, crystals to hold in my hand, and nothing. But I was enjoying it all anyhow, until I was standing at about the third shelf up from the display. Right in front of my face level was a crystal. And when I picked it up, I levitated. My body left the ground, and the denseness of my body became less dense. It was a beautiful moment, but I couldn't quite trust it. So I put the crystal down on the display case, and there I was. My feet were on the ground, and my body was as solid as it had been before. So did I really experience that? Picked the crystal up again. I levitated. I was off the ground. I saw everything with different eyes. I was different vibration, different density. So I put the crystal back on the shelf, and I ran to go get my friend. I said, come here, come here, come here. It's happened. I have finally found a a crystal that I vibrated with. And so she came over and I showed it to her and she touched it and picked it up and nothing. Didn't affect her at all. Well, I obviously grabbed that crystal. And by the way, it was a piece of celestite. Never had heard of celestite. And I bought it and I took it home with me. And I used that tool of sacred empowerment for several years. I held it. I used it during prayer and meditations. I made spiritual leaps and bounds over the next couple years. I became friends with people from many tribes in the Northwest. I attended smudging ceremonies and sweat lodges, and I found my connection to cosmic consciousness, to higher source, to who I really am. I was able to connect with the infinite wisdom that dreamed me into being. Now, a year or so after that event in the late 80s, I was in Denver doing a class, doing a seminar. And since I was going to be in Denver for a week, I did what I always do. And that was when I got in on Sunday night, I'd pull out the telephone directory and I'd see if I could find, first of all, an Olive Garden. I just loved going to Olive Garden no matter what cities I was in. I felt at home there and I loved their foods. And I also looked for metaphysical shops in the Denver area. And I copied down the address of one. And then one night after one of my sessions, I drove to that address. And it was this huge old 2-story 1900s house in an old residential neighborhood. And I found myself wondering, am I in the right place? And then I saw the sign on the house with the name of the store. So yeah, I was in the right place. Excuse me. Well, if you can imagine what entering an old house was like, it was, of course, a wooden floored building, a wooden foyer. And on each side, there were huge arches that went into 2 rooms. And the rooms were lined with shelves, bookshelves, and display cases and things like that. And in front of me, there was a doorway into some kind of a hallway. So I went into the room to the left of me and I just allowed myself to be there. I looked at necklaces made out of gems and earrings and bracelets and books and things and books. I was just enjoying myself. And then I decided to go through another doorway in the back of that room into the next room where I could hear people talking. And it seemed that there was a cashier back there because there were lots of questions. And so as I went towards that archway into the back room, tears started forming in my eyes and kept forming until they were dripping down my face, these warm tears. And I didn't feel sad about anything. I just couldn't quite figure out what was happening. And I didn't want to make a scene with the people who were in this next room. So I turned around and I went back towards the front door. Excuse me. And the tears subsided. So I kind of went, okay, what could that be? Could it be that someone I loved had just passed away? Well, that's a possibility. What else could it be? So I decided, okay, I'm better now. So I again started to walk through that room and into the archway into the back room. And then when I got to that archway again, the tears started again. And as they did, I looked over to my left, and in a corner display case was a crystal very similar to the one I'm showing you here on this slide. It was about 2 feet tall. It was huge. And it was this huge amethyst that I was physically responding to. So I went back into that next room and waited until the person behind the counter with the cash register was available. And I went over to her and I explained to her what had just happened to me. And she smiled at me. And I said, how much is that? I don't know how much I was willing to spend on it, but how much is that? And she said, oh my goodness, that's not for sale. She said, that amethyst affects many people that way. So that was the second time that I had been unexpectedly physically reactionary to a piece of crystal. Since then, I have used crystals for many, many different things. We're talking over 40 years here. So what I have learned through the decades is that those reactions to the vibrations of those stones probably usually indicated that I needed something in that vibrational family. Now, if you are new to crystals, if you haven't ever used crystals, I want to lay a couple things out here. Please do not gather crystals into your life until you've gained some wisdom about crystals and their energies, and that you, the 3D physical human being you, has gotten clear on a lot of your stuff, that you've attained a level of grounding and peace and enlightenment. And then you can use these crystals to help you and guide you in many, many, many ways. I say yes, use your tools, use the tools that were a co-creation created by you, created by me, created by God and the cosmic consciousness to assist us, tools for human beings on the planet Earth. Now, what we have looked at so far is recognizing the conflict in the world and how many of us are responding to what we are hearing and seeing and experiencing. We talked about understanding that a lot of us need to reset from the conflict that's happening. We looked at my motto of living in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you into being, and that we are both 3D human beings, planet Earth, and cosmic consciousness, and therefore there is that co-creation partnership between us. We talked about being in the now, that you are creative and powerful in the now, to stay out of yesterday and out of tomorrow and be in the now. Maybe even go walk in the woods and pay attention to your heartbeat. And we've started talking about there are tools available to help you. And now let's look at a little bit more into that. So number one is number two, number three, you have choice. You have the tool of choice. It is one of the most powerful tools that we have. Everything boils down to choice. We exist in a field of infinite possibilities. Every choice we make shuts an infinite number of doors and opens an infinite number of doors. At any point, we can change the direction of our lives by simply changing your choice. It's all in our hands and in our hearts and in our minds. We get to choose. Now, one of the things that you can choose is to embrace respect. Now, respect is one of my core values. And at one time in my life, when I fell down the rabbit hole, I found my way out when I recognized, through the help and guidance of a very special counselor, that I had been not respected by somebody who professed to love me, that they had actually deceived me because they were afraid to lose me if they told me the truth about something. Well, that completely violated my codes of truth and respect. So someone who was an intimate of mine, I won't go into all what that means, family members, people you're intimate with, not somebody you ever see on the street once a year, did not respect me enough to be truthful with me. And that awareness allowed my healing to begin when I recognized that the pain I was in was because he didn't respect me. In that moment, I was able to start getting back my sense of respect and honesty. So understand that those of us who are ready for a reset, that respect is a two-way street. You cannot receive or expect to receive respect from someone who you do not show respect to. I want you to think for a moment how that simple statement applies to what you are witnessing in the world right now. And if you can't get your head to quite wrap around it, I invite you to write that down and contemplate it before you go to bed tonight. Respect is a two-way street. And that we must respect people's feelings. Even if it does not mean anything to you, it could mean everything to them. One of the things I have experienced and seen in my clients time and time again is respecting when someone is down to the depths of despair and they cry. If you are in a relationship with anyone who says, you can stop crying those fake tears, they're not going to work on me, when your heart is breaking, that is a complete lack of respect for who you are and for your feelings. So if you want a little encouragement or help or inspirations on this subject of respect, be curious about the perspective of others. Look how we could heal what's happening in the world. I'll start with the policeman and the Black Lives Matter situation, but this is about everybody. You know, if the police who hang on to anger and judgment can open their heart to the perspective of the Black, if the Black can open their heart to the perspective of the possible fear of the policeman, think of what we could gain. Be curious about the perspective of others. Assume everybody is smart about something. I could go into all of these so far. Look for opportunities to support others. Learn to be wrong occasionally. Never hesitate to say you're sorry. And be patient. Have courage. Be creative. Literally, I could talk an hour about each one of these things, but for today, let them be seeds or reminders to each of us how we can show respect to others. So the next tool is see the good in people and help them. I recently saw a Facebook post that listed every mistake that George Floyd have ever made. If you're unfamiliar with the situation from the last 2 weeks, a month ago, an unarmed Black man named George Floyd was murdered by 4 policemen in Minnesota. The person who did this post on Facebook was talking as if that was the reason that it was okay to have 3 grown men kneeling on top of a man that is handcuffed and face down on pavement with one of his knees on George Floyd's neck. The 3 men made it impossible for a man to breathe, and they stayed on top of him until he died. They stayed there just waiting for him to die. And this person posted on Facebook everything that George Floyd had ever done wrong in his life. I was slack-jawed. Then during the memorials and the services, we all heard about the young boy, the high school athlete who wanted to be somebody and go somewhere. He wanted to be a beacon of light to show the world how to be a better place and how people could love one another. His family and others talked about how they loved him and how he was always there when someone needed help, that he was quick to smile and he was a gentle giant. So we all have a choice to see the bad or to see the good, and to realize that nobody is 100% of either of those. I beg you to see the good in people and to help them. Now, in my many years of pondering this police brutality thing that's happening, I have found myself seeing things from the law enforcement point of view, because I knew a lot of police officers during different times in my life. For example, when a policeman told a suspect to stop and put up their hands, and it doesn't make any difference if they're white or black or purple or pink or striped, and instead they disobeyed and they ran with the policeman following, trying to stop this person from doing something else bad, maybe killing an innocent person. All that had to happen was all they had to do was stop and put their hands up. Who was wrong in that situation? We were taught to respect the law when I was a child. I would have stopped and put my hands up. Now, the other side of that story is from the suspect's point of view, where they have learned not to respect the police. Each person in this scenario could be functioning from a place of fear, from fearing for their life. That does not make this good or bad. That does not make this easy. In fact, it makes it an almost impossible situation. Has the perpetrator, who have killed police officers been the culprits of where we find ourselves today? Have the police who have killed unarmed perpetrators been the culprits of where we find ourselves today? This is that old adage of which came first, the chicken or the egg, and there is no answer. We can only use the tools that I'm talking to you about today, beginning in now, living in the now, in the hope of resetting the conflict that's in the world. We have to stop referring back to something that happened in the past that gives you right to do things. We have to create the world as we want it to be. If there is a bad guys versus good guys mentality, who gets to choose which is which? Right now, there is a lot of circumstances being brought to the public's attention. So mistreatment of one side against the other. Next, it could be the other way around. It could be talking about the persecution of Native Americans. When I was young, it was the Polish or the Irish or the Germans or the Jewish. History shows many demonstrations how have men, human beings, have been bad to other human beings. That's the basic in my heart of what we need to change. It is not really one sector, one tribe against the other sector, the other tribe. Can you find it in your heart to just be aware that man can slide into an imperfection area of fear and judgment and resistance? We have to stop it. We have to get to the bottom of it. We have to find a way to start back in zero and bringing up this person is wrong because this happened. This person is wrong because this happened. We have to start from zero. We have to start from now. We need to teach each other to respect everyone, to try and see the best in everyone. God, I have so many more stories here, but to keep this short, I think you know what I'm trying to say. We are all children of God. We are all part of the cosmic consciousness that dreamed us into being. You will never look into the eyes of someone who God does not love. Just be kind. And try to give every human being every right that you claim for yourself. We need to choose. Yes, we could all hold on to our prejudices. Yes, we could continue to focus on the bad, on the mistakes someone has made, or we can choose to reset and start over, to use whatever tools it takes to help mankind get out of this. Now, how I wish there was an easy button for this. But this is basically a repeat about how the United States of America was created. People coming together to try to create a more perfect union. It took time and thought and prayers and collaboration to try to be fair to everyone, to recreate a union where everyone is created equal. After that, that union was created to the best of their ability at that time. Things were identified that needed tweaking, so we added amendments to the Constitution to make those corrections. And slowly over time, we've watched the respect for our Constitution disintegrate. The result is where we are today. What can we do about it? I say, things can be mended with intention. We can intend to mend our broken world. The darkness awaits for the light that is you. Each one of us has the power and the influence to be the best that we can be, to use our gifts and our talents for good, to co-create a better world, a better union. You are the co-creative partnership that can be a part of creating peace on earth. One by one, each one of us can be a part of creating heaven on earth. You can choose to spend every day recognizing what you want to be a part of creating. You can be the person who breaks the cycle. If you feel disrespected, show respect. If you feel judged, choose understanding. If rejected, choose acceptance. If shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurts. Vow to be better than what broke you, to heal instead of becoming bitter. Act from your heart, not from your pain. Here's to all the unseen acts of love that make the world go around every single day. When you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control how you respond to what's happening. That is where your true power is. You can respond by bringing up something from the past and every bad mistake that somebody has made, and therefore they're a bad person. Or you can respond from love now, saying we all deserve a chance. We all deserve help. The unclaimed and the unknown acts of kindness done on earth by each and every one of us are well known in heaven. So one more tool that I suggest is daily, several times a day, fortifying your connection to the divine. Take a moment to focus on words or sentences or memes that settle you back into the truth. Things like, I embrace infinite possibility. It's not that things can't change. They can change. I allow myself to be seen and heard. The world needs my truth. The world needs my love. I allow breakdowns to become breakthroughs. Allow change. Allow people to grow. Allow people to change. Take care of yourself. Nurture yourself. For it is the small habits, how you spend your mornings, how you talk to yourself, what you read, what you watch, who you share your energy with, who has access to you, that will change your life. Take sacred action. Be love in action, not fear, hatred, and judgment. Look at the time you have here on planet Earth as a sacred walk. Let each footfall be placed with intent and reverence. Now, I want to share with you today another powerful tool, the tool of visualization. And one of the keys to success for effective visualization is to deliberately visualize yourself after what you have created. Decide what you want to create, then look at yourself in the world 6 months or a year or longer after that has been created, after that has come to pass. Then visualize and feel the results of what you created, of what you visualized. As this meme displays, a great time to visualize is at the end of your day, as your bedtime story. It will not only relax you into a calmer sleep, but as your awareness of your 3D humanness fades away and into the background, as you allow your consciousness to smoothly and easily join the cosmic consciousness, your power to create is empowered and simplified. May we all be co-creators of heaven on earth, to co-create an earth where everyone can live their grand adventure, where everyone is treated with kindness and respect and supported to reach their potential. Embrace and use your sacred empowerments to help reshape the world we live in. You have the power, you have choice, you have the ability to teach others about their sacred empowerments. So as I close this episode today, I would love to invite you to join me on Facebook. It's Harmony Enterprises with Carrie Fox. And on there, I regularly share inspirations on how to do what I've talked about today. There are daily reminders that we can co-create a more loving and perfect union. I would also invite you to join me for our next 21-day meditation project. If you'd like to be put on the wait list to be notified when registration opens up, just drop me a line at meditationproject@harmonyenterprises.net. And next week, our Wisdom Wednesday is going to be focused on not holding on to your mistakes. And please, 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 please remember to live in harmony with the infinite wisdom that dreamed you, that dreamed us all into being. My name is Carrie Fox, and I want to thank you for joining me today. And if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's time to get your mojo back. So bye for now. Carrie Fox, signing off. Bye.